Hello and welcome to the second episode of what we have now decided to call Conscious Cashflow. This was the best name that we think we could have given to this podcast. This is how we run our business, this is how we run our lives. In the first episode, we showed you how Ajit was kind enough to show you how we can use energies around us to do simple tasks which don't seem very simple, like bending spoons. If you have not seen that video, we'll leave the link in the card somewhere here or the description. Today, I am here to ask very specific pointed questions to Ajit about something that I have been struggling throughout my life. So, throughout my life, whenever I got stuck with a problem, I always defaulted to blaming myself to the point where I question whether I have done enough or not. 9 out of 10 times, I would have done as much as I could have. And yet this feeling, this gnawing feeling of maybe I am missing something, I did not do something, has always come up. And when I speak to other people, I realize this is something that is human nature. Now, when Ajit and I started discussing these things, what we realized is while it is human nature, it is not the only option. So today we will concentrate on how using the right mindset, and I'm saying right mindset, but right-ish mindset, we can solve problems, we can achieve what we want without being hammered by the dogma of hard work. So today we want to discuss how vibrations can help you achieve abundance. Now, Ajit and I, our day job is pricing experts. Monetization. Now, when you think about monetization, whenever you talk to anyone about monetization, they will simply default to better sales, better product, better pricing. But there is always a fundamental deeper layer of energy and vibrations which impact your product, your sales, everything else. And that is what I really want to understand from Ajit today. So Ajit, before we delve deeper into this, I want to understand when we say energy or vibrations affect abundance, can you give us a quick summary of what that means?
Yeah. So you remember Adam Neumann, the CEO of WeWork? He is able to raise money without any difficulty, right? Despite being vilified by the markets, whenever a CEO like that gets into a investment discussion, immediately money is thrown at them. There is also this concept of founders having a very strong reality distortion field. We have heard it many times, right? Like some founders have an insane reality distortion field. That is what we are trying to discuss, because between two companies that have good products, they're doing good work, they are maybe trying to monetize, make money, become successful. When we do our profession, the profession of pricing and monetization, it can become very technical. But there is an underlying layer that makes success actually happen. In fact, the technical things like pricing, monetization happen downstream. And to a certain extent, they borrow elements of positioning, branding, your ethos, things like that within the product, which then becomes the price point and the vehicles of the pricing, right? So we always as a company go upstream, while other pricing consultants go about statistical methods. They talk about statistical methods. That we try to go about what is the perception, what is the positioning, and we are going a little bit upstream this time. All right. So the idea is that there is a set of, you can call them attitudes, beliefs, ways of doing business that instantly supercharges success, that brings the customers to you, that maybe activates positioning in such a superpowered manner. And we are trying to investigate why that may be happening, how that happens. And so one of the most, I think you'll have to build on this topic slowly. But in our last podcast, we discussed how a spoon is bent more easily when you visualize certain energies and certain something. So let us build upon that. What we illustrated was that humans have this innate, humans are actually consciousness, right? It is not that a human is the primary, the body is the primary, mind is primary, is actually consciousness that has created humans, and consciousness is primary. Our ability to perceive is primary. So when we perceived that there was an energy moving up in the spoon, we were actually able to witness the spoon bending more easily. That is similar to how founders create reality, because they embody a consciousness of a successful person. They embody the consciousness of a abundant person. They embody the consciousness of the best of something, right? The best in a particular category. But when we often talk to founders about even pricing, the founders come to us and, like, especially some of the younger founders or junior founders, if you will, not necessarily younger, they will say, my competitor is doing this, so I am also doing this. There is a sense of a defeatist mindset in how that is said. There is a sense of powerlessness in, I don't have any other option but to price it this way. And when you talk about their differentiation, there is the similar amount of powerlessness that they feel that their features are, this is all a game of features. They're not able to raise the game. They're not able to raise the game. And raising the game starts with self-belief, and an incredible amount of self-belief, which some founders have. That self-belief, so let's say, now we will segue into abundance, but that self-belief is also what is discussed in a book like Rich Dad and Poor Dad.
Yeah.
If, let's say, there is a person who was born in a rich family, right? Then they go to all of the top schools, and then they go to an Ivy League school, and somebody goes to a state school. Between these two people, one of the person who went to an Ivy League school could have had lower scores, could have had fewer accomplishments, yet just because of the circumstances that they were born and brought up in, they may have the belief that millions and millions of dollars are very easy to come by. Fundraising is super simple. Expanding operation is super simple. It happens easily, effortlessly, and they are naturally gifted leaders, right? So a lot of people in society tend to label this as privilege. But what it is, consciousness. They have the consciousness of abundance, and they don't doubt in their worthiness of this. So therefore, when they now go to do business, they're easily able to raise 5x more than other founders. People are easily able to convince customers. They don't have any baggage, so if you will. A person coming from a poorer family has a harder time creating that self-belief. And if the self-belief existed, then the argument I'm making is that self-belief leads to the consciousness, which attracts the money and all of the resources. So consciousness is primary, and consciousness is just an act. And we are saying it should not be that hard. If we realize that consciousness is just an act, it is just like playing a different role. Tomorrow, we can play the role of Adam Neumann, and what we will have to do is figure out how we fix our beliefs rather than fix the things that we do.
Interesting. So I 100% agree with you on the self-belief thing. Just last week, I was speaking to a founder who is pre-revenue, have a couple of design partners maybe, but the conviction in them that they are going to make it big was evident. I could feel the energy coming from them. While we have spoken to many founders who are doing fairly good revenue numbers, upwards of 2-3 millions, which is very good for their level, and still being underconfident. That's the phrase I will use. Very as to whether they are in the right direction, questioning everything that they do, not being sure of their path. So that is something that I have always believed, but I usually attribute this to confidence and experience. But from what I hear and what we have discussed in the past also is, this is something which is fundamentally different about how these people approach their goal or their life. Is that the correct summarization? There's a difference in how people like Adam Neumann, that's a great example that you just took, think about things, how they approach things. So do you think there can be a framework that can be built around it? Is that the right even the word to use for it?
It's just an understanding. It's just an understanding that what is not holding you back? Your experience is not holding you back. Your life circumstances are not holding you back. There is actually nothing holding you back except for a mental story based on the past stories that you have told yourself and stories that society has told you about how success happens. And that has enslaved humanity. One of the stories is hard work, that unless you work hard, success will not come. And again, I'm going to pick on the All In Bros because they are so popular and I watch them. So I'm picking on them. But the All In Bros say you have to compete with China, you have to have 14-hour work days. It's funny because they are themselves so successful. They must have worked more than the daily wage laborer in India to become this successful, which I don't think that they have. So they have had a certain amount of self-belief that have powered their success, which is hard for a person to even understand what has contributed to their own success, because society keeps telling you that it is hard work that leads to the success. Or your friends may tell you that, hey, unless you have the experience, you will not be able to do it, right? Or you will tell yourself stories that I have not done this before. How will I do it? I don't know. And in the past, I have had so many failures. So the failures become yet another oppressive story, right? It's just a story. And then you buy into the story. Once you buy into any story, your consciousness changes. So let's feel into this actually. For 1 second, imagine that you are Steven Spielberg, the successful director of God knows how many movies. I just imagine into the feeling of being Steven Spielberg and all of the stuff you've done being synonymous with great movies. There's a certain feeling, right? There's a certain confidence. You can already feel into it. You don't have to do 20 years of work to feel into this. But because you have these stories and your parents have told you stories and society has told you stories, the story of it's going to take hard work is literally, for me, feels like there is a 200 kg Japanese wrestler on my back. And he is, unless you feed me a lot of food today, you are not going to go anywhere.
Yes.
And while I fully respect the Japanese wrestlers, I think they are super awesome. There is a problem if they are on my back the whole day.
Yeah, this has actually touched a nerve. This is something that I have faced throughout my life. Whenever I faced any sort of failure, let's use the big word, the F word, the failure, I have always defaulted to loop of self-criticism, not introspection, but self-blame and self-criticism as to I must not have done the hard work or the right work that was required for success. And as I grew older, as the stakes of these failures started getting heavier and bigger, this gnawing feeling of not doing enough, it also got aggravated. And now that I know that's not the case, now when I look back and evaluate all these instances, 9 out of 10 times I realize I had done, in terms of work, hard work, the best or the most that I could have. And yet this default behavior of going to I did not do the right work or I did not work hard, it is really damaging. Ideally, when we teach our kids, when we teach our juniors, we teach them that you build on experiences, good or bad. But when it comes to ourselves, this idea of stories and the sumo wrestlers being put on us, we don't feel that. But unless someone points it out, that why are you walking around with a sumo wrestler on your back? So this has really touched enough. I have the benefit of being able to identify this and having someone like you to talk to. I want to get into a track where, let's say, if there's someone who's watching our podcast and they want to experience this at a smaller level, to get a taste of what it can be, what could they do, or what could they understand, learn or unlearn so that they can do that?
I think I will want to repeat one thing, that the first understanding is just about your own nature. And it is weird that this discussion only happens in a spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual circle, right? We are not in the quote unquote business of spirituality. We are talking
Yeah.
about truth. What is the truth? We we are saying that we are at our core just pure consciousness, and we are not the mind, we are not the body. I think this level of understanding needs to happen before any further discussion can happen, because if we say you can do X, you can do Y, it will become a rote prescription that will go nowhere. I
Yeah.
can tell you tomorrow, wear a Steve Jobs turtleneck, and you said I did the whole Steve Jobs thing. I am not rich. So,
Yes.
and we are also saying that we are on a journey of self discovery ourselves. We are not saying that we have some super Adam Neumann type people. We are also learning this, but we prefer to do things the way of truth rather than the way of hard work. Hard work is just not our style, and we comfortably found the truth, which is not parallel to hard work. So first of all, the
Yes.
understanding is that we are just pure awareness and consciousness. And in the words of, there is a teacher called Adamus, everything is an act of consciousness. So our lives are an act of consciousness. Everything around us is an act of consciousness. In the Hindu mythologies, it said the same thing, right? Life is a play. It's just a play. We are just playing different roles. You can change the role at any time. You can play a different role. If that understanding matures, then this thing can have a solution, because you will recognize through, when you reach a failure and you have this feeling that I did not work hard enough, what has happened is that you have uncovered a limiting belief. Through your feelings, that thing has uncovered a limiting belief. So the second layer to add on to this whole thing is that, one, you're not a human. Your consciousness acting as a human, so you can act however you want to. And second, things happen by a process of matching, vibrational matching, or matching of consciousness. So if you are sitting in the belief system of I need to do a lot of hard work to succeed, then those circumstances will appear in your life which make you do a lot of hard work to succeed. But
Sure.
Adam Neumann does not have this belief of I need to do hard work to succeed. He believes inherently in his deservedness of tens of millions of dollars every month. He has that insane level of belief, right? And he believes it, that he is deserving. And the universe is deserving. Universe is not going to take sides. It's just going to deliver that reality. So universe is pretty neutral in that sense. But if you watch all of the news media, just today I was parking my car after the gym, and there was an ad about Rolex. They're like, we are selling these Rolexes. These are great things. They epitomize hard work. And I'm like, really? I have a question about that. And they're like, yes, there are no discounts on this because it's only for the people who work hard. So hard work is so seeped into our vernacular and discussion. It's hard to with soap, rub this out of our mind. We have been indoctrinated. I think first we have to realize how far we have been indoctrinated. Before you go to do a new company or a new project, your friends may say, are you sure you want to take this risk? It is a big risk. You're walking away from so much money. Your friends get scared if they even have to go a few months without having a job. On LinkedIn, people are posting, I have finally done it. I've quit my job with nothing lined up. So why are you telling
As
me?
if that is not the default human state.
I'm like, why are you telling me that you are so scared that you cannot live a single month without having another job lined up?
Yeah, and it
Literally
has never been
broadcasting your
about
level
paycheck.
of fear, right?
What is important to highlight is it is not about a steady paycheck. It is just about the state of joblessness. What really scares.
Society is run by fear. Society is run just by fear, and fear is not a consciousness that attracts money. Fear is a consciousness that attracts misery and hard work and struggle. What is a consciousness that attracts money? Being generally abundant, feeling rich, howsoever you define it, right? Feel the feeling of being rich. You don't, now, if you don't have the money, you can hack it by saying, I won't focus on money, I focus on general abundance. You can
Sure.
start from there and be like, I'm abundant, I don't feel any limitation or lack.
Sure.
Now you can find so many ways to back into the consciousness of authentically believing you are abundant. You will bring your relationships into the factor of abundance. You will bring where you live, everything in your life into this thing of abundance, and you will start from there, right? Then you may increase, then you can hack your beliefs. Then you can, let's say you make $100,000 a year. Maybe you can hack your belief into getting to 200,000. Maybe you cannot hack your belief to getting into $1 million, right? But all we are saying is find a way for you to believe that. You could even brainwash yourself. You could on repeat say, my income is this, my income. You can brainwash yourself. Sooner or later, when the mind keeps hearing the same thought, it believes that. This is why ads repeat with the same message so many times. This is why news channels are run by a mafia that keeps programming us with fear, and all of the news channels actually roll up into few organizations with certain message are indoctrinated into us. So if they can indoctrinate us into fear, we can indoctrinate ourselves into abundance. But it has to start with two understandings. One is who you are, and second is the nature of this game. The nature of reality works based on vibrational correspondence or consciousness matching. It does not work on Newtonian mechanics that I will do so much work and then I will go so much distance.
Sure. That is very helpful. To be honest, that is very helpful. Now I want to get a little more tactical. I want to gain. So let's say on a scale, there's a scale wherein at 0 is someone who is still at the point where they feel that they need to work hard, or they do not deserve anything for which they have not worked hard. And on the other side, other extreme, we have people who have willed abundance into their life. Adam Neumann, and I'm sure there are other people. Now, if I am at 0, now again, while I know, when I say the question, what should I do to move from 0 to 0.1 or 1, I'm asking the doing. But if someone wants to do it, what would be your tactical advice? How can they start to get a taste of this?
So the very basic
process
is to feel what it feels like.
Okay.
That's the first step, because at the end of the day, one of the ways consciousness exhibits itself is a feeling. So you can feel the feeling of, let's say you are at X salary or whatever revenue, you can feel the feeling of at least having 2X. That is in the believable territory. Then ratchet up to 3X. You can think as this as a scale.
Help me with when I say believe. So see, Ajit, again, let me play the devil's advocate here. Let us say I am currently at $1 million revenue right now. Okay. Now I start believing that I have $2 million revenues. But every time I look at my reports, my ARR statements, it will still say 1 million. My business scales and runs as a $1 million business only. My hiring, every aspect of my business is still as if it is a $1 million business. So when I am the one who just believes, no, it is $2 million, could it not be a little dissociative for me, as in there is a real world and then my...
Okay, let us do it in mathematical terms, right?
Yes.
We'll do it with the delta T principle. You are here, you are at 1 million in revenue. All right. Let us have 100K increments. Let's create a scale. Okay. You're going in 100K increments on top. You're going in 100K increments in bottom. All right. Now, at 1 million, I want you to feel how it feels like for you a revenue to suddenly tank to 200,000.
Okay.
What do you feel? How does that feel?
Not good at all.
Okay.
Not good at all.
Okay. So what we have identified is a thing called resistance, right? And the extent of which you are not feeling good is a level of fear. It will be fear because suddenly if tomorrow this happens, there will be, any person is going to have some fear in their business, right? And that fear is increasing the probability of that bad outcome. It is not keeping you away from it. So first we have identified that you have fear that is keeping you from going up. through your feeling we have identified. If you had no resistance to going to zero, you would never attract going to zero, going low. But you have resistance and fear. So that is going to bring that reality more probable to you. Now let us go up. You said that 2 million is feeling hard to believe, right?
No, what I'm saying is, I can, first of all, how do I go about believing, right? Is this something like I chant like it
You
like a
already
mantra,
are not believing
or
because the way you explained is that it is dissociative.
yeah.
You are already saying it is hard for you to believe.
Yes.
How you are
I
saying the
acknowledge
same
that.
thing, huh? So that's what I'm saying. You are finding 2 million as hard to believe. So it is hard for you. Your consciousness is not easily going there. So if you sit in the 2 million, you're going to have a split consciousness basically. You're not going to be aligned.
Yes.
So it is better that you start with 1.5 and then you work your way from 1.5. Is 1.5 believable? Will you feel more aligned that, okay, 1.5, can you see it theoretically happening?
Yes.
Can you see a set of circumstances that bring 1.5? Okay. So when you pick too big a number, your consciousness is misaligned because the reality is showing something and you're trying to force yourself to believe something. That is not well.
That is exactly what I asked.
This game of belief will only go as far as true belief. You can change the belief, but tomorrow it is unlikely that you are going to believe that you are going to win the super lotto.
Sure.
If you had a strong belief in winning the super lotto, you would win the super lotto. That's all we're talking about. And we have identified something that is keeping you from going up also. It is your fear.
Okay.
Now, in founders, rather than the upward difficulty, the downward fear is much more present, especially of somebody who is successful. So every discussion they have this is not all. This is not the majority. The people who are successful do not engage even with us in sales calls like this. The majority of people engage with us that success has been hard and we are not going to spend any money on anything. So it doesn't matter if you want to spend on pricing, but that attitude carries forward that we are not going to spend any money on anything. And we are scared of whenever we hear the word competition, it feels irrelevant unless you're in a hyper competitive market. You don't talk about differentiation. Then there are some companies that we talk to that are so focused on making their number. They're like, listen, our problem is not to pay you or work with you. Our problem is our time, because we are going to go do so much. We are really caring about how much time you guys are going to take from us, right? We want to achieve stuff, but we can do it anyway, even without you. So that is more prosperity consciousness. That is more abundance consciousness. And that is the difference. So through this method of scaling, we have revealed to ourselves where you have resistance to going to 2 million and you have resistance to falling to 200 as an example.
Yes.
So it is easier for you to start brainwashing yourself now into 1.5 million if you are starting at 1. Okay. That may be better than organically you may be reaching like 1.2 million this year or 1.3, because once you're believing something, your actions will follow. If you believe you're going to have 1.5, you will think about how to staff appropriately. You will think about salaries. You will think about pipeline generation in a certain way. The actions you take are going to be different. And so now how to embed belief is more of a there is no how, but it's a 1:1 thing. Now you can create things like affirmations, but I have not used the word affirmation till now because you can say, oh, affirmation, it doesn't work, or you can say, oh, I have done many affirmation, doesn't work. We've just explained why it doesn't work, because you have resistance. If you have resistance, then how will the affirmation work? You won't believe the word you have just saying. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is, you need not if believing in money is harder, you can believe something else, that my YouTube channel will go from 100k to 300k. That's easier to believe. You can believe that the number of clients will go from 5 to 15. It will not put a money pressure. So you can find proxies that are easier to believe and believe those. I don't often try not to get into the habit of believing a money figure. When we did manifestation for our own company, we started with money, but I was not very happy when we did it. because I don't find it easy to believe that from zero I'll go to 2 million immediately. What I feel easy to believe is we will be the number one in our category sooner or
Sure.
later, because I have all the skill set for it. I have written a book, we have the course, we know everything, we are opinionated, and we are innovative enough to be doing certain things that others will not. So
Sure.
if we become the number one in our category, we will be rich, but we are not attempting to go to that direction based on a money goal. And this is
Yes.
also the reason why goals are problematic, because if you set a goal that people in your company are finding it hard to believe, then it is detrimental, like especially economic goal. It is
Mm-hmm.
easier to say this is where we will be qualitatively, and that could be easier for you to believe, and then putting all your effort in becoming that, and let the money flow on its own.
Sure. Sure. See, this is helpful. This has been helpful. So far, we have talked about mostly startups, founders, and business, money numbers. I just want to take a small step to the right or left, and as to how a normal general person who's doing a job or studying or a homemaker, how can they start with this? While what you said, that was I think you have answered my question, which I'm sure is a common question among people who are founders or building their own startup or doing something, any project of their own can resonate with. It could be difficult for someone, let's say a student or a homemaker. How do they do this? Do you think there's a smaller
I think so. I
taste?
actually believe that there is a lot more content for individuals. We were trying to do this podcast for businesses because it's harder to think about things like manifestation in a business setting. But there are tons of resources around this for individuals. If you are looking for recommendations, we can provide recommendations in the links. But
Yes,
the
let's do that.
understanding a lot, but my critique is only that a lot of people teach things like manifestation, a lot of people teach things like consciousness without the core understanding of who you are and where you are. Who you are is consciousness. You are not a human in which consciousness is. You are consciousness. And number two, that you are living in a single player virtual reality game where your reality is created based on your consciousness or vibration. So that is first is who you are, second is where you are in the nature of the game. Then you can invent everything based on that understanding. But when anybody teaches manifestation, they don't start with these two truths. So people talk about energy, but people don't understand the primacy of consciousness. If you have consciousness, then energy flows in that way. If you think you are sad, depressed, energy doesn't flow. If you think that you are glorious, handsome, beautiful, mega millionaire, compassionate, great, talented, then energy flows to support that. It's just it's your decision. Nobody is preventing you from feeling a certain way. What is preventing you from feeling a certain way is the thousands of years of indoctrination from society and family and co-workers.
Agreed. So before we wind up for today, again, I will still want to drill down a little bit on tactical. Is there a small activity or an exercise, for the lack of a better word, that people can try, which can make a small but noticeable change in their life, which gets them to get a sense of, yes, what we just discussed, that works, that is a thing, and they have been stuck in a loop. Is there something that we can
I will not offer anything. I think there are many methods. All methods are only as powerful as how much power you put into them. So I am not in the game of offering aspirin, and I am not a doctor who prescribes anything. And I also think that when you do that, if results don't come because you will be like, you don't believe it in yourself, you have not figured it out on your own, and you will do it only because Ajit has said X, and then you said the number one thing that Ajit said didn't work, so this thing is crap. So
does not work.
This is the problem with prescriptions. And if you go on a journey of self-discovery, sooner or later you will do certain things, but you won't do it because you won't do them prescriptively. You will have an understanding, you will have a desire, and then you will do certain things. And that is what gives power to the thing.
Fair enough, fair enough. So again, so now if we are not directly recommending something, what would be the direction or decision matrix for someone like this? How do they evaluate these things? Where do they start
I think it is
in
more
evaluation?
about making a list of limiting beliefs.
Okay.
It is more about evaluating yourself in different circumstances where failure happened, success didn't happen, or your beliefs about your current project. And what are your beliefs? What is the bottleneck to making it work? That bottleneck could be a limiting belief. Perhaps you believe all the VCs ask you to burn the midnight oil and you don't think you're working hard enough. On the other hand, the VCs are also asking you to make sure that you have work-life balance. Start with the understanding that if you listen to a VC, you are already dead. All right. Start with the understanding that if you are listening to the shrieking cries of fearful parents, you are already dead, who don't think that anything will become of you and this is all a waste. Start with the understanding that your spouse will likely not support your freedom. Nobody on this planet will support a free person. Very few people will. So let us start with the understanding that everybody is indoctrinated to hold you back. How about that? Can I give you any practice to solve that? No. You have to come to a place where you do not believe what your wife says, what your parent says, what your co-worker says. And you are going to hate me when I say this. So you are not going to believe. I know that because you think that these people know better than this brown man.
They have my best in their heart.
Yeah. But they may have your best in their heart, but they don't know the truth. They're equally clueless.
Sure. Again, this is interesting. As a matter of fact, in one of the future episodes, I would really want to deep dive into the very uncomfortable and hard truth about the whole parent-child relationship and how one of the reasons most of us are not able to even think of abundance or grand success is because from the get-go our parents have indoctrinated us, or to the extent that pushed us down.
Nobody's pushed anybody down. We have allowed and imbibed certain things. Nobody has actively tried to push us down.
Interesting. Awesome, Ajit. This has been very helpful to me also. I'm not saying this just to say this. I have personally learned a lot, specifically the example of the 1 million to 2 million. That was a legitimate hurdle that I have felt many times. While on the one hand, I do understand the theory of abundance and mindset, but when you start actually doing it, the whole difference that your report says that it is still 1 million, and then how are you living in the world of 2 million, that has been really helpful, and I'm sure this is going to be helpful to a lot of other people. Again, thank you, Ajit. Thank you for helping me. Again, I'll reiterate, this is a podcast that we are building for ourselves. And if you
find benefit, that is good. If not, that's also okay.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, this is a podcast for two. But again, if viewers, you find value here, right, that is bonus. So great being here, and we'll see you the next time. Thank you.